let's have a look at some of the statistics that Anki can provide us. There are both graphical statistics and textual statistics. Let's start with the latter. Choose Tools and Deck Statistics. Then it'll show you a list of information about your deck. The only thing worth pointing out here is that card maturity. Mature cards are cards which have an interval over 21 days. That means that you've answered them correctly enough times that they won't be shown again to you for at least 21 days. Alright, let's look at the card statistics. Currently we have no current card, but if we start reviewing, it'll tell us a little bit of information about this card. For example, when it was shown last. This is a failed card, so it has an interval of 0 seconds. Let's review one and we'll come over here. So for example, this card was changed 11 months ago. It's we haven't seen this for quite a long time. It was due 6 days ago. There's an interval of 10.8 months. So it's a fairly old card. And if we show the answer, we can see that the next time will be in, for example, 2 years or something like that. Okay, let's look at the graphical statistics. These graphs, okay, the due graph indicates how many cards are due on a given day. So for example, today there were 15 mature cards due and there are 30 young cards due. This graph goes into the negatives because we haven't done reviews for approximately 2 weeks, and so all of these cards need to be reviewed. Next is the repetitions graph. We can see that about 12 or 14 days ago we reviewed 100 cards or so, and before that we reviewed about 150. This is, if we can change the interval to, for example, 6 months, we see that this particular deck people have been studying fairly regularly, although they've had a bit of a vacation here. Alright, down to the review time. This is in minutes. We can see that we've spent approximately 10 minutes or 15 minutes or even 20 minutes per session. Added is the number of cards that have been added on a given day, that is typed into Anki or imported. So for example, 8 cards were imported 2 weeks ago. First answered is when they're actually shown, so you can add cards but you don't have to answer them until you are ready. Cumulative due shows you how many cards you have due on a given day if you don't study at all. So we haven't studied for about 2 weeks here, and so you can see that there are about 175 due. If we go for another month without studying at all, we'll have about 450 cards due. The intervals are how long the card will be hidden before it's shown again to you. Let's expand this out to, for example, 1 year. And you can see that there are cards here that have intervals over a year, but the majority of them have fairly short periods. The longer you use a deck, the more these will expand out. And so if we look at 2 years, there are some and the 2-year period here as well. The eases indicate what buttons you're pressing the most. So you can see for new cards, 1 is by far the most common answer, but for mature cards, 2 is the most common answer. This deck is actually one of my students, and he is very conservative. You can expect that most people studying will be using 3 more often than 2. Okay. The other thing I should point out is that you can actually hide and show some of these graphs. So if you're not at all interested in the intervals, for example, we can hide that and it will disappear from the list. You can always add it again later. I think that's all we need to cover.